If you're pro 2A, you can't ever fully trust a politician with your rights because we've all watched those rights get traded away the minute it's convenient. I've said that for years, and I still mean it. A lot of people on our side keep one eyebrow raised, wondering what a president will actually do when the slogans fade. But every now and then, something happens that deserves real credit, not in an easy state or a friendly county, but right in the middle of one of the toughest places in America to lawfully carry. That's what we're digging into today, and I want to lay it out straight with the same balance. I always try to keep praise what's praiseworthy, call out what's nonsense, and keep perspective so we don't lose the plot. This hits close to home because it's not theory, it's daily life. It's about regular people who want to carry legally in a city that has treated them like suspects for years, and about a bureaucracy that finally moved from molasses to something resembling modern speed. Before we talk about what changed, we have to be honest about the backdrop because the backdrop in DC has never exactly been a postcard. Crime isn't a headline there, it's a drumbeat. They still sit at or near the top for overall crime of any kind. Roughly 1 to 200 out of every 100,000 people become victims of something. In 2024 alone, there were 29,000 plus reported crimes. Carjackings, around 16,000. That's insane. Your car in many states is considered an extension of your home. It should feel like a safe space. In DC, too many people learned it isn't. Even with a recent dip, the point stands, people still get hurt while they wait for permission to protect themselves. Now, look at the maze DC made you run if you wanted to carry. Up until 2017, you had to provide a good reason, as if self-defense didn't count in America after 2008, when the Supreme Court affirmed the right to carry for self-defense. Even after that requirement was scrapped, the red tape didn't go anywhere. 4 to 6 months just to land an appointment, then the application, then more waiting. 6 to 12 months total was common, and a full year wasn't unusual. Meanwhile, life didn't stop. Threats didn't pause so the city could process your paperwork. The requirements read like a penalty, not a path. 16 hours of mandatory classroom training, 2 hours on the range, fingerprints, IDs, fees, none of it online. Everything face-to-face like it was still 1995. The Metropolitan Police Department insisted on manual reviews, and a single clerical mistake, sometimes not even yours, could deny you or push you back months. On paper, they were supposed to handle applicants within 60 days. In practice, backlogs and staffing excuses turned that promise into a punchline. The message was loud and clear: trust the government to keep you safe. Don't trust yourself. Let's be honest about why it stayed that way. DC is packed with politicians and bureaucrats who say they support the Second Amendment in theory, just not anywhere near them. They move with security details, walls, and ride in armored cars while telling you to wait your turn. The fantasy says if you keep more guns out, crime goes down. Reality says criminals get guns illegally, or they use other tools to terrorize decent people. That's the stage. And against that stage, something finally shifted from years to days. Next, I'll walk you through exactly what changed, how it works now, and why it matters. Here's what actually changed. The city took a process that dragged for 6 to 12 months and shoved it down to roughly a work week, 4 to 8 days in most cases. That's the headline, and it matters. You still jump through the training hoops. 16 hours in a classroom and 2 hours on the range didn't vanish. But the sandbags that made decent people wait a season or a year just to touch the front of the line were hauled off the road. Staffing was pumped up not just with a couple of clerks, but with enough bodies to handle next-day appointments. And for the first time in memory, people are talking about walk-ins that actually get seen. They put some automation on the back end so files don't sit in a pile until somebody remembers them, and they leaned on federal resources so the city can't hide behind the same old "we're understaffed" sorry note on the door. If you've never had to navigate that gauntlet, it's easy to shrug and say, big deal, a few days versus a few months. But time is the whole ballgame when you're living with a threat. The gap between "I need to carry to get home safe" and "the paperwork might be done by Thanksgiving" is where victims live. The old system treated the law-abiding like a problem to be stalled. The new pace, even with the same training burden, treats them like adults who can make decisions about their own safety. No, this isn't constitutional carry, and no. They didn't rip out every silly requirement, but cutting the clock from seasons to days changes the real world more than any press release ever could. The best part isn't just the speed, it's the message hidden inside it. When the bottlenecks vanish, the excuses vanish too. You can't blame clerical errors forever when a digital queue and extra reviewers move applications in a straight line. You can't pretend the 60-day statutory promise means anything when the average wait is 4 or 5 days and everybody knows it. Suddenly, the myth that delay equals safety gets exposed for what it always was, a way to look busy while keeping regular people disarmed. And yes, it's bold to open the door wider in a place where the president is physically present. If you're afraid of an armed citizenry, you don't do that on your own doorstep. You hide behind your details and tell everyone else to be patient. That's the double standard in this town armed security for the powerful paperwork purgatory for the public. This shift doesn't fix everything, but it breaks the old reflex. It says the quiet part out loud, the problem was never the family that wants a permit. The problem is the criminal who never files one. Will more lawful carriers mean chaos? That talking point has been recycled to death. Criminals ignore permitting rules by definition. The only people hamstrung by red tape are the ones who obey it. Disarming polite society never turned predators polite. What actually changes behavior is removing the soft target sign from ordinary lives and making sure the good guys don't spend half a year waiting for permission slips. That's the heart of this move. Next, let's talk about the other half of the picture, how the cleanup of the city ties into this, why the Home Rule Act matters, and what a two-front approach looks like when you stop pretending that paperwork is protection. Here's the other half of the picture, and it isn't a side quest, it's tied straight into the same push. By leaning on the Home Rule Act and bringing real muscle to bear, the cleanup of DC stops being a press conference and starts being a plan. I have compassion for people who are down bad. Everyone should. But there's a difference between compassion and surrender. The nation's capital shouldn't look and feel like a mini San Francisco, and pretending it does is some kind of moral victory helps exactly no one. Offer services, offer beds, offer a path, sure. But get the encampments out of the core and raise the standards so families can actually enjoy their capital again. That's not cruelty, that's competence. And even then, let's not kid ourselves, clearing tents doesn't make crime vanish in a puff of good intentions. You can spend $1 billion on beautification and still leave regular people vulnerable if you keep them waiting 6 months to a year for the basic lawful ability to protect themselves. That's why speeding the carry process matters. It's not separate from safety. It's the other half of safety. There was even that absurd moment where the message coming out of the city sounded like, criminals, we actually want you to stay because we need to lock you up. You can't make that up. If you think posturing is a plan, you'll love that line. If you actually live here, you know better. I would have had a big problem with all of this if the promise had stopped at "Trust us, we'll make it safer." We've heard that lullaby our whole lives. Trust the government to keep you safe. Don't trust yourself. No thanks. The only way any of this passes the smell test is if the cleanup comes with real personal responsibility on the citizen side, faster permits, fewer bottlenecks, and a clear path for the people who follow the rules. That's exactly the point. Don't ask the law-abiding to sit quietly while the clock runs out. Give them a say in their own safety. Restraining orders. In the real world, the piece of paper that says 100 yards or 200 yards doesn't stop the obsessive ex, the jealous fool, the angry stranger. It's a speed bump at best, a tragic joke at worst. Speed matters. Access matters. The difference between "we'll get to you next year" and "you're squared away next week" is the difference between helplessness and hope. And opening the door to more lawful carriers in the very place where the president is physically present sends a message nobody else in this town has the guts to send. I'm not afraid of my own citizens. If he was, he'd keep the spigot closed and hide behind the standard double standard private security for me, paperwork purgatory for you. Yes, the training requirements are still there. 16 hours in a chair, 2 hours on the range, the whole package. I think a lot of it is busy work, and I won't pretend otherwise. Call it what it is, crap that treats adults like kids. Maybe we will pare that down next. In a sane country, the requirement to exercise a right is that you're a citizen and not a criminal. Full stop. But credit where it's due, this move puts trust back in the people who deserve it. It won't fix everything, and it doesn't have to. Big wins start with small ones. National reciprocity. Let's push. Constitutional carry across the board, keep chipping. We didn't lose our rights overnight. They were shaved off one thin slice at a time. We'll take them back the same way, one clean cut at a time. Tell me your experience. If you live in a restrictive state, how long did you wait for a concealed carry permit? What hoops did you jump through? Drop it below. If you value this kind of straight talk, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.